Rock and roll, sir?
Yeah.
All right, we're back here at the Zac. I'm nervous for this one.
Why?
Because how do you, like, I don't know that I've interviewed a host yet. Like you're the
OG.
I'm not the OG.
You are the
One of them.
I'm an OG of recovery podcasting for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Which is weird. But there were OGs before me. There was Omar of the Share podcast, and there was that sober guy. Both who we had major beefs with in the beginning. But go back to your. I don't want to.
No, this is it's gonna happen how it's supposed to happen. You've taught me that. Dave Manheim is here from Dopey Nation, Dopey Podcast. He's got the Dopey Foundation. He's doing live events. We're gonna get into all that, but most importantly, he's just a guy that I really respect, and you've helped me a lot. So I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you. I respect you, and you've helped me a lot. And I this is my neighborhood. Like, I grew up in this neighborhood, and I feel like we don't spend a lot of time together, but whenever we do, it feels as though we have. So that's nice.
Yeah, it's easy.
And I never met Jay, so that's cool.
Jay is the one kind of floating, because I've talked to him about like this Bourdain idea of going out and being like
Yeah,
I want to help cobble that
yeah.
together.
I gave that to Zac, so
Nice.
I own it.
Very good.
I own it, Dave.
Jay's a big idea guy.
No,
I had that idea for me.
Well,
and then I was like, let's just give it to Zac because he'd be better at it than I would be.
Well, it's a
we
great
could do it
idea.
together.
Yeah. But
You
Jay,
know.
we can give you credit even though I
Okay,
never heard you
fine.
mention it
Well, I'll
before.
just be around.
Okay.
Wherever we go, West Virginia, Malibu.
So we're gonna
Wherever we go.
get into Dave's story because it's a good one. But before, so Marc Maron yesterday came out and said he's done. Are you done? Like, where are you at with the whole podcast?
No, I'll do it. I'll do it till the wheels come off. I'll do it until, I mean, what I said after Chris died was I'll do it until it sucks or it's not fun. And it's still fun, and I don't think it sucks yet.
Chris was the guy that you started the podcast with. You met him in rehab.
Yeah.
We can get into that.
And Zac knew Chris.
I met Chris, and then I know his sister Arden, who works in the field.
Oh wow.
So there's a lot of degrees of. I mean, this world is so small, as you know. Like, the longer you hang around,
The smaller it gets.
Yes,
For sure.
And do you? I saw. I was laughing because this is how I saw you tweeted something like, "I hate celebrities" the other day, or a couple weeks ago, because probably someone was annoying you that wouldn't come on, or
Probably. Yeah.
then automatically I'm like, it's me. He hates me.
Oh.
The self-centered elf. But are you competitive with this stuff? Do you care? Like what is your driving?
I'm deeply disturbed. I'm super competitive. I care. Every slight is like a dagger in my heart. But I'll tell you something, that I'm a sick person. First of all, let me lead with that. I'm a very sick person. And I really struggle with every aspect of rejection. But I've learned something with you, because you don't respond as quickly as I would like, or as often as I would like. You are the first person that I got over it with. So you've given me that. I've gotten over it.
Why? I'm curious.
Acceptance is the key to all of our answers. Acceptance is the solution to all of our problems? That's why. Because I don't know. I think when we sat down just before DopeyCon last year, I felt very plugged in with you. And I was like, you know what? Zac's a busy guy. He can't always get back to me when I want him to. So you got to pass. Other people don't have the pass that you have. Like your buddy, fucking Wellbridge Mike. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I recently made an amend to him, though.
Really? Mike
Yeah.
Ahern.
Yeah.
I love Mike.
I made an amend.
So is it like the disrespect thing? Like I'm not worthy, and then it makes you feel shitty about yourself, or what is it?
It's the classic alcoholic of how could they do that to me? You know what I mean? And it's like with real celebrities, like not like people I know, you know what I mean? Like people I pine after come on the show. There are some celebrities out there who communicate with me and don't come on the show. And I'll name them, because why not? Boy George, why doesn't he come on the show? I don't know. Fucking Jeff Garlin agrees to come on the show and then ghosts. Fucking Jason Mewes texts with me every month and he won't say no and he won't give me a date. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to keep texting you. That's why I text him. I said, you don't want me to keep texting you. Why don't you just give me a date or say no? No, he won't. He likes this game. I don't know what it is.
I really respect
Sarah
that.
and Jay are like Zac needs a little Dave because I'm like terrified to write anyone.
Well, you did that with us, because we went back and forth. We canceled one time, and you kept coming and you put it in the subject line. We need a date, and the
Yes.
truth is I respect that, and I also know that you're not like some dude off the street. You're professional. You've built a history of doing this.
I'm very much a dude off the street. I'm not only very much a dude off the street. When we started, we didn't have a mic. We didn't have anything. When we did it in my apartment on Grand Street, me and Chris talking into a laptop, and I started stalking celebrities then, and I'm still stalking celebrities now. And with this show, though, the truth was I fucked up our first date. No, Zac fucked up our first date. You had to go someplace and you got stuck.
Yes,
and you couldn't
my flight. Yes, I was in.
Do you think Zac's a hard guy to read? Because I think a lot of times people can perceive that oh, this dude doesn't like me or he's standoffish, and that's never the case. I got your back.
I think I grew up with people like you, so you're not hard for me to read.
Good. But I do say, if I say I'm going to come to something, I come. Like that morning at breakfast, I said, well, yeah, Release will sponsor your event.
You and you came to the event and you came to coffee. But the real winner was I ran into you after the event. And it was a very nice running into you on 6th Avenue.
Yes.
I was walking up from Dave's New York, not to be affiliated with me, but you ever go to Dave's New York?
They have like shoes and sweatshirts. And,
Army Navy store.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
classic. Great store.
Been.
And I'm with my friend Ray, and you saw us, and you were so happy to see us, and it was a beautiful moment.
So if you're not following, Dave has a podcast called
It's called Dopey.
Dopey. It's
called
a
Dopey.
and it's
Dopey
been around
podcast.
forever, and he's really, really good, and he does this amazing job. So look, we do a lot of serious interviews here because I want to get all serious and talk about how you've saved the world and all this shit. But Dave has taken an alternative approach, which is why I think we can both coexist, which is it's really funny. I mean, your shit is really funny. You're one of my favorite follows on Instagram because I'll be having a shitty day and I'll come up on one of your memes that just makes me I don't audibly laugh a lot. People know this about me, and I will audibly laugh at your social media.
Did you set out to do it that way? Were you or is it just you're a funny neurotic guy being
Dopey
himself? No,
or the Instagram.
The podcast
No, the podcast was not meant to help anybody, and it still isn't meant to help anybody.
or be funny.
No, it's meant to be funny.
Meant to be funny.
It's basically, I was 4 months sober, and I was talking to Chris, my friend, who I had met at Mountainside in 2011. We both relapsed 4 times between 2011 and 2015. I had made a sizzle reel for a show I wanted to do because I work at Katz's Deli, and the show is called The Last Jewish Waiter, about a waiter who doesn't want to be a waiter. He wants to have a talk show, so he does a talk show while he waits tables. And the people who made Anthony Bourdain's show actually bought it, or
I love it.
picked it up and tried to pitch it. It never got really sold. And Chris loved it, and he was like, I want to do something like that with you. And I was like, I don't know what you do, except I knew he had crazy drug stories. And it turned out Chris had been a great writer and a very brilliant creative person, but he was funny as fuck, and he had horrible, horrible drug stories. And I had another friend who was like, you should do a podcast just about drug stories. And I was like, Chris, why don't we try to do a podcast just about the worst shit we had ever done? And I was totally devoted to the Howard Stern show, and I was devoted to Artie Lang's existence on the Howard Stern show. And I said, why don't we just take that and tell the worst stories we ever did and make fun of each other and dumb shit, talk about what we ate that day or what we were doing. And it was meant to just be a comedy show. And we put it as a comedy show. I feel like 6 months in, as a joke, we decided to turn it into a self-help show because we figured we'd rate higher, and we did. But we never wanted it to not be a comedy show, and we never really wanted it to help anyone. What Chris always said was if we made a show to help somebody, nobody would ever get any help from it. But if we made a dumb, stupid show that people thought was funny, maybe they would get help from it, underneath it.
Which is evident if you go to his live events, you have these people that have been around you and they have these kind of characters within the community and these fun names. And if you're there for the first time, you kind of feel like it's like you're walking into your first meeting. It's like, I don't know anyone here, and these people seem really cool, and they're all like this little family and I'm on the outside, but it's
You killed it at DopeyCon though.
Thank
You out vulnerable to everybody. By the end of it, did you feel comfortable?
yes. Oh yeah, of course.
So you were up there telling your
It was right before I went to onsite. It was so the
What-
live event. It was
yeah.
October. Was it?
It
Yeah.
was DopeyCon 500.
So he had Hank Azaria, he had Jason Biggs, he had Carl Radke, he had Novak was there. Novak had to make an amends.
He didn't make the amends though. He refuses to make that amends properly. And I've lost some people from that. Our editor quit because Novak didn't make a proper amend. And I gave him an award and he didn't. I gave him the same award, I think, 3 years in a row. I think we'll give it to him again. I don't think he's going to make the proper amends, but that's okay.
Jason Biggs won't come on this podcast.
Why not?
I just want to say that out loud.
not?
I don't know. We asked him, he said no.
What did
so
he say?
I'm just saying that out loud.
Jason Biggs?
Yeah.
He's a very likable fellow.
Yeah.
He's very
he's
likable.
I mean, I'll talk to him.
Yeah,
Honestly,
talk
I'll
to him. Get him
He's a
in the
good guy.
chair.
He's a good guy.
So
Jason Biggs,
I don't-
fucking, just so we're clear, I DM'd, direct mess. I don't even like saying DM'd. I direct messaged Jason Biggs 500 times. No response. And do you remember, oh my God, Jersey Jerry?
Yeah.
Sarah, our producer, loves Jersey Jerry.
Jason Biggs is a big Barstool sports guy, and I went on Jersey Jerry's show, and then Jason Biggs is like, oh, where do I know this guy? And he's like, oh yeah, he wrote me 500 times, and that's when he agreed to come on. So it's weird shit like that.
It happens when it's supposed to, right? I mean, like,
That's the sober way to look at it.
I mean, the truth is, I wouldn't have wanted to interview some of these people early on because I probably would have been too like. Now I get it. It's more of just a conversation.
I think, I mean, for my show, for Dopey, it's meant to be drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And then depending on what the person wants to do and the connection, it goes where it goes. You know what I mean? Like when you came on, you were game for drugs, addiction, and dumb shit, plus recovery.
Yep.
And then plus where we were connected. And I think like, I love making the show because I like that last Jewish waiter thing. Like I'd always wanted to have a talk show. When I was a kid, my mom would listen to AM radio in the kitchen, this show called Rambling with Gambling. I mean, I'm 51. I turned 51 this week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And fucking, I would listen to it and I'd be like, oh, that sounds so relaxing. This guy's job. I was like, I kind of want to do that. And then I fell in love with the idea of doing a talk show, and I never thought to do it until Chris was like, let's do something.
So prior to you go to Mountainside in 2011, what heroin? Are you a heroin addict?
Yeah. I'm poly addicted. I'm a heroin addict. I'm a weed addict. I'm a benzo addict. Those are my things. But I've shot meth. I've shot coke. I've sniffed coke. I've done acid, mushrooms, ecstasy.
Yeah.
So
Ibogaine,
you're
whatever.
working at Katz's Deli, for 10 years?
No, I've worked at Katz's for 17 years, and I still work there.
You still work there?
Uh-huh.
So you were still, in that time before 2011, before you go to rehab, you're working there and you're just on a cocktail of drugs?
No. Okay.
No?
I worked at Katz's.
There's a great story here. Doesn't the guy tell you like?
Well, I worked at Katz's when I was in high school and in college. And then I became a TV producer. And then I became a heroin addict. And I moved to California. And I found out my mom was dying of leukemia. And I came home. I got off a shit ton of methadone. I came home. I started working at Katz's. I met my wife. She got pregnant. I was off heroin. I was smoking weed. They made me a manager of the store. And when she was pregnant, one of my best friends came over and gave me heroin, and I started using, and I got my habit back. And I'd be counting money, like shit tons of money in the office, nodding out into a pile of money. And then they found out and they fired me.
Katz's.
Yes.
And said you need to get help, or just said
They said you're fired, and I went back to them and I said, please let me go to treatment. And they said, okay, but when you come back, you can only be a waiter. And I went to the owner at the time and I said, I had just come back from treatment. I was like, can I please be a manager again? And he said, these words echo in my brain. He said, once a junkie, always a junkie. And you hear that, the opposite of that in a meeting. But when this man said that to me, I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And then I really like got into recovery. I mean, I think it took me a few years. I didn't get sober until 2015. And my first daughter was born in 2010. So like,
Oh, wow.
it was a rocky kind of period.
and you meet Chris. So Chris OConnor
Yes.
You meet him. What was the dates of Mountainside?
I was there May 1st to June 1st, 2011.
Right. Because I went to Karen August of 2011. And then I landed in Brooklyn. I went to Joe Schrank's place in Williamsburg.
And Chris was the manager.
And Chris was there. Yeah. I mean, he was kind of around and
he was running that place.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite
amazing.
Dopey stories in the history of the show, where Chris was running that place called The Loft in Williamsburg.
yep.
And he was like eating ecstasy and shooting coke and like locking himself in the manager's office with the client's urine. I don't know why that always stood out to me. I always thought it was.
I know that office well.
Yes.
And Joe Schrank, I mean, Joe has helped a lot of people. I mean, Joe has always been kind of a, you know Joe?
I do. He has a giant Dopey tattoo.
Amazing.
A giant Dopey tattoo. He got us Hank Azaria. He got us somebody else. He was on the show in 2015, like maybe our 20th show he came on. He's you know, he's funny. He's a good guy. He's definitely stuck by our little thing, and he loved Chris, and Chris loved him.
Because he had that website. I remember
The Fix.
Well, the Fix, right? And so that's what I always think about when I sit around and say, like, why are we doing this podcast? Why are we talking about this stuff? Because I remember how impressionable I was early on. And I remember I would go on that website and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because it was kind of like pop culture for recovery, The Fix. I mean, it was him and
I don't know.
a lady. I think a lady that's involved in Dopey, one of the women.
Amy Dresner.
Amy Dresner.
But she was a writer for The Fix, and then they did a podcast called Recovery No, it's called something Rehab Confidential, but they stopped doing it.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. You like.
I've competed with all these people. I've had resentments against all these people, and I love all these people. I'm a sick person.
You have a good name though. The naming of a pot. I mean, like mine's horrible. It's just my name, but
No, that's
Dopey is amazing.
It's amazing until they start calling you Dopey Dave, and then it's not amazing.
You don't like it.
I don't like it.
You didn't see that coming?
Well, if Chris had lived, it never would have happened. Wouldn't have been Dopey Dave and Dopey Chris. It would have been Dopey with Dave and Chris.
Right.
But Chris dies, and I become the clown Dopey Dave, and I don't like it because people, and this is again a testament to my illness. People fucking say, "Oh, Dopey Dave," and they act like they're giving me respect, but they're not giving me respect.
Right.
They're putting me down. They're saying Dopey Dave.
Do you?
Like, look at this fucking idiot, Dopey Dave. You don't think so? It's built in. It's built.
You think that people, because your name's Dopey Dave, are
my name is not Dopey Dave. Let's just be clear about that.
It's Dave Manheim. But you think that because the Dopey is associated, that like subliminally they're
No.
either making fun of you
No,
or they
no.
think you're dope.
No, it's the alliteration of Dopey Dave. It's those two words together creates this clown, this idiot fool that's beneath all of us professionals. That's what happens.
So interesting
Yeah,
because I always thought it was like I was like, oh, that's Dopey Dave. Like that's like respect.
I wish I could see it that way.
But I want to go back. You keep calling yourself very ill, and I actually know you personally to a certain degree, and I think you're actually a pretty well. Is this like a bit? Is it a bit? Because I think there's a lot of people that are in recovery that'll say, "Oh, I'm so sick," or "I'm like."
Those are the ones who know the most about themselves. They're the ones who are adjusted.
It's like, when can I accept Dopey Dave as a respectful thing? That's a question. Is it a bit? Yes, it's a bit, but it's a bit that's real.
Well, what would it take?
Money, power, I don't know. Something like that.
Like, do you look at Marc Maron and you're like, "Fuck, Mark! Like, you've been on my show, we're friends, blah 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 blah. Like, what you have is the Holy Grail, and now you're just fucking walking away from it."
First, I would say me and Marc Maron are friendly. I wouldn't say we're friends.
Okay.
He's somebody that really loves to let everyone know how annoying I am. That's one of his great when dealing with me, it's a passion of his. But we're friendly, and I think Marc Maron, you know, he came out with podcasts when they were called podcasts because they were on an iPod. Like he
2011, I think his came out.
I feel like it.
2008 maybe,
12.
whatever.
I think earlier than that.
Yeah.
And maybe 2011. I don't know. But Marin has a very, very, very successful stand-up career. He's a successful actor. He's on this new Apple TV show with what's his face?
Yeah,
Stick, or Wills.
the golf one.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because I feel like that something happened for Marin, and I think it relates to your podcast too. There was an episode that he had with Louis C.K. Where they sort of like hashed out this age-old beef and feud, right? Mm-hmm. And then I feel like after that, like Louis C.K. and his whole thing sort of changed the perspective of Marc Maron to a degree, the podcast. And I've heard you talk about this with yours. You know, you lost your co-host, the guy you started with, to a accidental drug overdose, right? Which obviously is terrible. And then after that, it brought attention to the podcast in a new way. Is that true? Can you talk about that a little bit?
It's definitely true. I mean, do you want me to talk about the Marin Louis C.K. thing?
No.
I mean, I think the thing that's true,
kidding.
the thing that's true about both of those things is that something changed there, and that's what made it more interesting or seemingly more important. With Chris dying, it was just so tragic and crazy. And I'd mentioned a friend of mine had brought me heroin when Linda was pregnant, and it was my friend Todd. And Dopey would never have happened without my friend Todd, because me and Todd basically met in college, became stoners together, started doing other drugs, started doing heroin together, did every drug in the world together, drove across the country a bunch of times. And he died just before Chris. He died 6 weeks before Chris died. And maybe 3 very, very, very important members of our community died in the 2 years before that. So by the time Chris died, I was so sick because of Todd's death. Todd's death fucking leveled me. I don't think my mother died, and I cried, and I don't think I cried again until Todd died, and my daughter was like so freaked out because I was weeping. And by the time Chris died, I was just furious because Chris knew Todd. Todd went to stay at the sober house that Chris worked at, you know, like, and I think all of those things made people very attached to the show. It's this thing that people call a parasocial relationship, where they listen to a podcast and feel like they know us and they're friends with us. And now it's someone is gone that they thought they really knew. So many people were in love with Chris. He was really very likable and sweet and funny and naive and handsome.
That's what's frustrating about some people I've lost. It's always that guy that we, you know, like.
That's funny. It's funny because like when they all of a sudden get all these good qualities when they die. But Chris actually had those qualities. You know?
I'm sure he would steal your wallet when you were down, but like he would
He'd help you look for it.
Bring some energy to the room and
well, it's
make you
it's just a
laugh
surprising thing, right? Like good people die in this business, you know, of drug addiction.
I don't think I'm a bad person. Did I steal my dad's 1963 Miami Hurricanes ring and go to the pawn shop and get a lot of money for it because it was actual gold? Absolutely.
How did he get that ring?
It was like his graduate. So back in like the 60s, like the graduation rings were made of like real gold. So I gave that to the guy at the pawn shop, and he gave me a couple grand back, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Did you ever get it back?
No.
Oh,
That's
wow.
long gone. That's long gone. So you go to treatment, you get out. 2011. You and Chris say you kind of. When do you start Dopey? When does that?
2015. So this year is 10 years of it.
So you start in 15, and Chris dies in 18.
Yeah. We did 142 episodes. And then the 143rd was the episode where we mentioned that he died. And his girlfriend who found his body came on the show, and it was crazy. And
why did you do that, do you think?
Well,
you brought on his girlfriend, and she literally talked about finding his body and the whole death, right?
Yeah, I did it because when he died, we had just had a baby. We had our second daughter, and when he died, she called me, and I thought she was lying because I had talked to Chris the night before he died, and he was fighting with her because he was using. You know, he was lying, he was using, he was crazy. Arden had tested him on the Sunday, and he died on the Monday.
Is there any agreement between the two of you when you start the pod that you're going to stay sober, or is it just we're going to do this and see what happens in 15?
I think we just agreed that we would never stop doing it. We never mentioned using.
So,
although Chris would often say, if one of us used, it would be the best episode ever. He would say that.
And was he sober from 15 to 18 until he started using right before you don't know?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
you were.
Yeah. I've been sober since, 2015.
Because we talked
10
about
years this year? Did you have it or is it
in
coming?
August?
Are you August what?
August
13th, thereabouts. What about you?
30th, August. Yeah.
June 27th.
Are you 20?
No, 18.
Wow. That's a lot of time. You're going to be 10? 9?
14.
15? So why did I think, I don't know.
14. 2011. I went to treatment in
Because that's why, because we were in treatment in the same year.
But just one thought though, like, because talking about your sobriety, is a choice in a public way. You're 4 months out of rehab, right? Which is like, when you go back and think about the way you were 4 months into your recovery, it's like
I didn't go to rehab that time. I went.
You're
to
4
AA.
months sober.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just thinking about the first year of sobriety. Like, I wasn't even a person. I could barely order a sandwich, in my apartment.
That's why the show is so good.
Yeah, I bet it was great.
But that's also too, like, for me, the shit's like way too serious to not have some humor around it. Like, there's this whole underbelly right now. One is the language. Like, you can't say drug addict. You can't say, and I'm like, I'm a drug addict. What do you want me to say? Like, I don't think anyone's going to be more or less inclined to get sober because I'm not calling myself a substance abuser.
I think there's different rules though for you because you own treatment.
Yeah.
You work in treatment. I work in a deli.
But aren't I supposed to aren't I supposed to give people some hope and normalize this thing a little bit and not make it so
right? But you're under way more scrutiny than we were.
True.
We weren't under any scrutiny. First year though, some people were like, they're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
You'd have some people that would say that now, but they don't know you and they don't know the
No, they
premise.
don't say it now. They don't say it now. They said it then because we didn't even want to say we were in recovery. We didn't want to say anything about recovery. And I went on a bunch of rants about how the second the show was about recovery, I would stop doing it. And we didn't use our names. And we covered our eyes so you couldn't see who we were. And it was totally anonymous. And it was just meant to be stupid and funny and fun. It wasn't meant to do anything besides that.
And were you going to AA meetings? Were you involved in 12-step? You were doing the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I got into 12-step meetings really because of Chris. And when I got sober, I was just coming off of weed and occasional pills. I had stopped doing heroin in like 2013 or something. Maybe 2012.
You said your wife was pregnant in 11?
She was pregnant in 2009. No, Nora is 2010. Yes, Nora was born in 2010. Susan was born in 2018, just before Todd and Chris died. But I was using when Nora was born. Mm-hmm. I was on the streets copping Xanax, like just before Linda gave birth to her. And it was at St. Vincent's, which closed down. But she asked me to stay over, and I said, no, I need to go home and clean up the house for the baby. But Todd, who died, met me there, and we did heroin. Mm-hmm. And I was just, I say it because I think it needs to be said. It hurt Linda so much. It destroyed our family. We were apart for 5 years. It was a miracle we ever got back together. And I only got back together was because I got sober and I got into 12 steps. The only reason I got into 12 steps was because Chris had a year and a half when I decided I needed to change my life. And he was like, you need to go to meetings. And I called him every day. And he wasn't my sponsor, but I knew if somebody as fucked up as him could get something out of it, then I was down to try.
And why do you think why is it important for you to have celebrities on the show? Because you feel like it helps.
I'm like a fame whore. I feel like if we have celebrities on the
honest.
show, it makes me seem important. It gives the show credibility. It makes the show seem like a real show. It gives us.
And that's what the stranger cares about. I mean, like whether it's right or wrong. I just think that like we live in a world right now where everyone can see anything they want about anyone, and when you're famous, it's just like people want those stories. And I mean it's.
But there aren't a lot of people out there openly talking about. You'll see the People Mag clip or the U.S. Like someone talks about going to rehab. Someone last night I saw mandated to go to 3 AA meetings a week. I don't even know who this guy is, but.
It's rare that they're going to give up the goods. We would call it hitting them with the dopey. Me and Chris, we would say that all the time. And the first celebrity we got on was Danny Boy O'Connor from House of Pain. And it happened super randomly. I was a waiter at Katz's, and Danny Boy O'Connor was a regular. And Chris never wanted to have celebrities on the show at all. All Chris wanted to do was talk shit. He didn't want to have anybody on the show. Once in a while, have like a friend call in or something. Danny Boy O'Connor was in the restaurant. I knew House of Pain had toured with Cypress Hill. I figured Danny had some kind of weed story to tell. And I said to him, can you meet us after the shift and come do the show? And he's like, sure. After the shift, he goes, what's your podcast about? And I said, oh, it's about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And he's like, oh, fuck, I have 12 years today. And it turned out he's this horrible meth addict, super AA guy. It was crazy. And that was the first famous person we had on. It was totally random. I didn't know he was sober. I didn't know he was a real addict.
Have you pulled other people out of Katz's? I feel like
Jamie Lee Curtis and Marin, all of them, all the best ones.
Oh, that's where you met Marin, and
Marin's story is it's like that's the only real. I mean, this is how fucked up I am, or I should stop saying that. But I struggle with people who talk about God's will, higher power, all that kind of stuff. I adopted that stuff because it was suggested that I needed it. It was not natural for me. But show's dying. Basically, Chris had died. I feel like the show is dying. I'm in Katz's. Do you know this guy, David Sheff? He wrote the book.
Yeah, Nick Sheff. Yeah, Beautiful Boy.
Nick Sheff is another one who's been ducking me for fucking 10 years, Nick Sheff.
Well, dude, I read that guy's book.
Amazing.
The first one.
Tweak. Amazing book.
Yeah, but that totally set me out on another run because
so good.
In the first 30 days, I'm in my first treatment and I'm reading this guy talk about shooting heroin, speedballing.
Amazing
I'm like,
book.
I am not done because I haven't done that yet.
The
so I
second
actually
book,
credit his book with my second run. Yeah.
That's interesting. His second book, though, it's called We All Fall Down.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be sober. He's touring the country with his dad and using to be this sober advocate. I love Nick Sheff. I'm very angry at you, but I love your writing. He was supposed to come on in January, and he fucking ghosted. Anyway.
Guys, get Nick before Dave so we can feel this resentment.
Yes, definitely. That sweet hatred. So I'm fucking at Katz's. I'm serving a table, 5 matzo ball soups. I look at my phone. I get an email from David Sheff, who the movie Beautiful Boy had just come out. And he's like, I can't do Dopey for 6 months. I have to do some real shows. He didn't say that, but it was implied.
Yeah.
And I was like, And I went outside. And I took the maitre d's vape. I'm vaping. I just quit smoking. I'm vaping outside of Katz's. And I'm like, maybe the show needs to end. And I look down the street and Marc Maron's walking down the street. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, are you Marc Maron? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm David Manheim. I do this show called Dopey. And I had tweeted at him 1 billion times. And he goes, I know you. And I said, well, do you want to come in tomorrow and I'll buy you breakfast? And he's like, sure. And he comes in because he stays at a hotel across the street. Total God shot. If there ever was a God shot, it's this one. He comes in. I buy him an omelet, a lox egg, an onion omelet, I think. I get him a sample of every meat. He's Jewish from New Mexico. He loved the kind of mythology of Katz's. And I think he's from New Jersey and relocated to New Mexico. But anyway, then he agreed to come on, and I interviewed him in his hotel room that week. Jamie Lee Curtis came in when Chris was alive, and she was buying a Knish for Christopher Guest, her husband, and someone's like, oh, did you see Jamie Lee Curtis? And I was like, yeah. And I run out the back door and I'm waiting for her at the front door. And she comes out and I'm like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis. Good. I'm like Bugs Bunny waiting for her. And I tell her about the podcast and she goes, I'm a dope fiend. And I said, I know. Do you want to come on our show? And she's like, yeah. And I take out the waiter pad and she gives me all of her information and I write her and I'm shopping and Chris was still alive. And Chris writes me and he goes, I think Jamie Lee Curtis just wrote you. I was like, I don't think so. And because the email didn't say Jamie Lee Curtis. And then the email says, do you want to do it? And I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm like, what? The show? Because I figured it's just some weirdo who's listening to the show. And he's like, I think that's her. And then when she asked me what the show is about, and I said it's like the dark comedy of drug addiction, she's like, I'm not doing it. Because to her, making fun of addiction or recovery is not happening. She didn't agree to come on the show until after Chris died. And she came on the show and she cried because Chris died. And it was like very powerful.
She's openly
sober, very sober. And she's been incredibly helpful to Dopey over the years. She'll respond and she's cool. She has boundaries. Like she was amazing. But it really happened because of Katz's.
She has boundaries, yeah.
I don't have boundaries.
It's part of the recovery thing.
It,
like, just to talk about recovery for a second, is I have learned, I don't know about you guys, but it really does kind of work out. It kind of does. I mean, that story about Marc Maron walking down the street is amazing. I mean, but how many times have we seen that? Have we experienced that in a variety of different ways in our lives?
And if that doesn't happen, as long as you're not dying from using, it's going to be okay. There can be moments that suck.
Yeah.
But if you don't use, chances are a good one's around the corner. I mean, that's really the real message. There's always a comeback. There's always a way that things can be okay. When anyone asks me how I'm doing, I always say the same thing. I say mostly good, because there's always something that's bothering me. I can always complain, but mostly good.
What's your relationship to Katz's now? Because I mean, have you ever, like, I was an actor.
He's the guy. He's the catering. He's running the show.
No, now I did every job in that place.
Like, were you ever like, I can't wait to get the fuck out of Katz's Deli, and I'm gonna be a full time doing my thing. I'm making money. I'm blah 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 blah.
Every day.
Every day.
And in fact, when we started Patreon, it was like, get Dave out of the deli. It was the whole thing. And then my second daughter was born. I was waiting tables probably 50 hours a week, walking like 15 miles in Katz's every day. And I learned so much. Like, I never learned more than as a waiter in Katz's. I never learned about recovery more than as a waiter in Katz's. I never learned more about life. It was the only time I ever learned that the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. Like, I never learned that.
Are people tipping these days?
They were when I was there.
Yeah.
When I was waiting tables, they were tipping. It was amazing. I made more money doing that than as a TV producer. And it was a grind. And also, everybody that works at Katz's is basically Dominican, either from Dominican Republic or from the Lower East Side. And like when you work,
not Jewish.
I called my show The Last Jewish Waiter. No one's Jewish there. The owner is Jewish. Some of the managers are Jewish, but 98% are Dominican. And I say that because Dominican people are amazing, but working with Dominican people in Katz's, you learn so much about the world. And there's a lot of like conflict. And after I had gotten fired for being a drug addict, a lot of them called me a crackhead and demonized me and whatever, but I fought my way through and persevered. I wound up getting the nod to do catering there. And then I started doing marketing there. And now I do strategic partnerships and I run their social media. And Joe Rogan recently went on his show and said he's addicted to Katz's Instagram. I feel like I'm 2 steps away from getting on Joe Rogan. Maybe 3.
You were just on Rich Roll. I mean, did that help the
I think so.
brand a little bit? Yeah.
It helped my ego. But I mean, I begged Rich Roll to go on that show.
Yeah.
I mean, I begged him.
Were you
begged
sitting
him for
there?
years.
His book,
Amazing book. Beyond Ultra.
really same. I mean, like I credit him with why I run and why. I mean, his story is unbelievable. It's unbelievable what that guy has done, which is why I think he has. I believe that people that are confident like he is, like I feel like he's a very confident person. They've probably accomplished something pretty cool. I mean, that whole thing he did where he did a triathlon on every island in Hawaii in 5 days. I mean, it was nuts.
Ultraman, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it was the full run, the 26 mile. I mean, and he flew.
Wow.
He's great though. He's like, there's nothing he's not great at. And it's obvious when you meet him and like you see his, you were there, you saw his spot?
No.
It's like, I've been on the Howard Stern show. I've been on Rich Roll. I've been on Marc Maron. I've been on This American Life, and none of it is like Rich Roll.
Who was best, Rich?
Oh man, it's like his space is incredible. It's like, and the way he does, he's just super pro. Howard Stern show is pretty amazing, but it's like New York. It's in a building.
When did you go on Stern?
September 22nd, 1999. The greatest day of my life.
Wow.
I told a crazy lie. I was making a TV show, and I was a big Stern fan, and I wanted to promote my TV show. It was 1999, so I figured there were 3 ways to get on the Howard Stern show. One was to have my hot girlfriend get naked for him, but I didn't want to do that. Another was to get naked myself and wear a sandwich board saying Howard is the greatest. I decided I didn't want to do that either. And my third was invent an award and give it to him. So my show was called Shuffle, and I called it the Shuffle Entertainer of the Millennium Award, and it was on college cable television across the country. So I said I had affiliates in every college market polling the students to see who the entertainer of the millennium was. I said it was Howard. I said he beat out people he hated, Jay Leno, Adam Sandler, and Bob Hope. He hated all of them. And I was high. I had snorted heroin and cocaine and did ecstasy. I was up all night. At 5 a.m, we left my apartment on 24th Street, walked up to K-Rock. I was so scared and so high that when I walked in, I looked normal. Like my fear was only offset by the heroin I had taken, and I was totally normal. He accepted the award. He thanked me. He thanked his agent. He thanked Robin, and then Robin said, "Look at him. He's fucking high." And they kicked me out, and that was it.
That was the whole bit.
It was probably like 7 minutes or something.
Is there a video of this?
Is there an award? What's the award look like?
The award was a bowling trophy that I had made, and I had to actually. I was so cheap that I credited the trophy shop to get the trophy for free on the Stern Show. And what was the other question? I had a good answer for that question. Oh, was there a video? There was a video that I got years and years later, and I moved to California. And I went to some girl's house, and to impress her, I showed her that, and I left it there. So I don't have the video anymore. It's gone forever. But I have the audio.
They have archives. We gotta get on. Sarah, we gotta find that.
You can find that. I would be so grateful if you could find that. But I have the audio. It's very sweet.
So Dave, what do you? I mean, I would imagine that people do reach out to you. I know weren't planning on being a self-help show, but by nature of what you do, what are you telling people these days? How are you guiding people?
I don't think I am. I mean, I don't think I'm guiding anybody. What do you mean?
Like if someone's loaded and they reach out to you, I mean, like you don't get the DMs of people, "Hey, I listened to your show. I watched your show."
I do. I tell them to go to meetings.
Straight up.
I say, go to a meeting. I say, go to a meeting. I say, do something. You know, like I got sober in AA. I was barely drinking, but I got sober in AA. When people say, I don't want to say I'm an alcoholic, I say there's some magic that happens when you say it, even if you aren't it. There's some incantation that happens. And if you're not willing to do that, the greatest question in recovery is, what are you willing to do? That's the question.
Yeah.
What are you willing to do? And if you're willing to do nothing or very little, or doing it on your own terms, chances are you're not going to make it. And if you're willing to do it, you have a chance. You know, I mean, the community in Dopey Nation community during COVID started 25 Zoom meetings a week, and they still do them. And there's nothing to do with me. And they have an AA meeting, they have an NA meeting, they have a refuge meeting, they have hangouts, and people are using in there, and people are sober in there. And I know people in there with 20 years, and I know people in there that aren't getting any time. But I just want to say, like, everybody's welcome. I know how I did it, and you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you don't have strong opinions on 12-step versus SMART versus Dharma versus Refuge versus.
No. I have no opinions. My only opinion is like AA really saved my life.
Right. Which I think is confusing to people though, because I say the same shit and then I get pinned as like a 12-step guy. Like, yes, that's how I got well, but I have also seen people get it other ways.
You just have to do something.
Right.
You have to do something. And
it's also a different time. You know, like I just feel like even though there still is a lot of stigma, like it's just talked about a lot more and a lot more openly. And then these other methodologies are much more mainstream. I mean, when we got sober, like it was either you're going to go to rehab or you're going to go to AA after rehab, or you're just going to go to AA. Like I didn't know what else to do. I knew one person, she was really fucked up, and then she got sober, like sort of like what you said, and she wasn't fucked up anymore. And she said, "This is where I go." And I followed her, and you know, when you get inside those rooms, it works.
Well, we don't really. I mean, so Jay was my sponsor for many, many years.
No way.
Yeah. So, and I always say what I needed. So I was an athlete growing up, and I always thrived on the coach. This is what you be here at 6 o'clock. You do it this way. This is how many you do. I thrive. So when I met Jay, he was in his starving actor in New York City era. He had a gaggle of sponsees, probably sponsoring 20 guys. He was sharing at every AA meeting, you know, in New York City. And I heard him share. And so I went up to him after the meeting, and he very seriously said, "Call me tomorrow at this time." So I called him. And then he said, "Meet me at this party." And I remember we were at this guy, Dave Rosenfeld's house. He had this beautiful Manhattan apartment. I'd never seen anything like it. I'm 6 months sober, and I'm just moved to New York City. I didn't know there were actually like nice places to live. And he pulls me out on the back, and Jay, in his very animated way, he's like, "Are you willing to call 3 alcoholics a day? Are you willing to go get a home group? Are you willing to be of service? Are you willing to take other people through the steps?" And I was like, "Are you willing to do a 90 and 90?" And I was like, I did no choice but to say yes to all those things. He's like, "All right, great, call me tomorrow." And he walked away.
You didn't really do that?
I made all that shit up on the spot, you know, and he said yes. No, but like when I hear him say that about me, I'm like,
"You're scary, bro."
I'm like, you're talking about a different person. But like that is the power of the experience that I had in the process. And I had a sponsor who was like super blah 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 blah, like this is what's in the book, do it. This is what I did, do it. And look, it fucking worked, and I got results. But like now, I look back at that, and I think like, yeah, like that was what you needed, right? But like someone else, it may
runs
be
the other way.
The exact opposite.
I'll tell you this: I got sober in a meeting on Sullivan Street, RFI, 7:30 in the morning every day, and somebody in that meeting would say that every day. There are 5 things to do, and they're exactly what you just said, Jay said. And when I heard it, it changed my life. And I say it now at my meeting because I think somebody always needs to hear that. It's these very simple building blocks. What the guy at RFI would always say, he would say all those things, and he would say, it is almost impossible to relapse if you're doing all of those things. And like that was the thing, because I had never gotten any time. And I was like, okay, if I do these things, it's impossible to relapse. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this.
And it's what you said, like, what are you willing to do? Anyone that I've ever seen really change, like have a profound experience, is because they were willing to do whatever it took, you know? And that's what the way I had gotten. And, you know, how do you get to that place? Pain, right? You just get beat. At least for me, I was beaten into a place. My first year, my first year without drinking, I was going to a ton of meetings. I was suicidal by the end of that first year because I hadn't really changed. I hadn't done anything, and like I just was left to my own head, and I was in a very, very bad spot. So for me, I didn't want to do the steps. I didn't want to talk about God. I didn't want to do any of that shit. You know, it was nice to go sit in a room with like-minded people and hear yourself talk. But when it came time to do the work, I was like, that's not for me. And then I got into a very dark place, and it was like I need it, and it worked.
Totally. Dylan Woods. You know Dylan?
Yeah.
So Dylan was Chris's sponsor.
Oh, no shit.
And Dylan came on Dopey recently, and I confided in him on Dopey that I'm sponsoring a kid who smokes weed. And should I take this kid through the steps?
Yeah.
And Dylan's like, he's like, if you were smoking weed, would you want someone to give you a spiritual experience through the 12 steps? And I said, no, I wouldn't fucking care. I'd be smoking weed. And he goes, well, that's why I think you should give this kid a spiritual experience through the 12 steps. And I was like, okay, so I'm sponsoring this kid who's willing to do everything, but he really doesn't want to stop smoking weed. He has co-occurring mental health issues.
Yeah.
He's decided that cannabis is better for him than X SSRI, X sleep aid, X anti-anxiety, all these things that in AA, it's okay if you're prescribed a low dose of Klonopin, if you're on Lexapro, if you're on Ambien, whatever. But weed is this taboo thing. And it's just interesting because it's like nobody.
How old is the kid?
I think he's 31.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's where the weed thing's confusing to me. I think I put up this post. I mean, I had a meltdown because I put up this post about marijuana a month or two ago, and
I saw that with current marijuana and how strong it is.
the army came after me.
Right.
I mean, I lost thousands of followers. Like, people really came. Like, the marijuana advocates in this country are.
Yeah.
And I tried to engage them in a way that felt okay to them, and they didn't even want that. And all I was really trying to say is that I'm not so sure smoking today's weed for an 18 and 19-year-old kid is good in any capacity because it's so strong.
See, the way I look at it, I love weed. I feel high to this day from the weed I smoked when I smoked. And all I say about it is, like, I couldn't do it.
Right.
If I did it, I'd be smoking every day. And if I was smoking every day, maybe I'd start taking benzos. And if I started taking benzos, maybe I'd take opiates. And if I started taking opiates, maybe I'd shoot.
Right.
I mean, it's funny because there is no heroin, I don't
No, it's
think.
all fentanyl.
Is there any heroin left?
No, I was talking to someone. Who was I talking to? Someone that just cleaned up off heroin, and he was telling me that maybe it was one of our patients, but he was telling me that it's all fentanyl. I mean, he was smoking it, so he said, when you smoke fentanyl, you know the difference between that and pills and heroin, and and then it's this xylazine. Have you seen the xylazine? Have you seen this shit?
I've read about it.
It's like it eats at your flesh.
But it's it's weird. I was interviewing this woman today, and she has less than 90 days, and she was making fun of people who were relapsing on kratom, and she's like, go do real drugs. And I'm like, are you saying they should go do, she was like, they should go do heroin. And then I was like, well, isn't there no heroin? And she's like, yeah, they should do fentanyl. And I was like, are you really saying on the show that they should go do fentanyl? And she started laughing because it's so ridiculous. It's something old school drug addicts say. This pussy, they should fucking just do heroin, whatever. But now there's no heroin. So all you can say is go do fentanyl, which means, like, chances are you're going to die. But I say that as a 51-year-old who never did fentanyl. I was strung out on heroin for 12, 13 years, never did fentanyl. So in my 51-year-old psyche, I'm like, if you do fentanyl, you're going to die. But I know there's a world of people out there that are casual fentanyl users or devout fentanyl users who haven't died.
Yep.
And like, they're not thinking they're going to die. They're not thinking it's a death sentence for them.
No,
it's confusing. And weed is very confusing for sure.
It's scary. I mean, I will be the guy that I'll see a 21-year-old smoking a Juul and drinking a White Claw. I want to knock it out of his hand, give him like a Marlboro Red and a Budweiser and say, stop.
Same thing, right? It's the same thing.
You're smoking on a USB thing and drinking a seltzer. Have a beer.
Don't be a pussy.
Do you think the dude you're sponsoring is like eventually going to give up weed?
What I said to him, because I really like the kid, and he's really, he calls me every day.
It's awesome.
We're on step 7. Like, he's in it, I just said, as long as you have an open mind about not smoking weed one day.
Does he go to meetings?
Yeah.
How are the people treating him in the meetings?
He doesn't tell them. And I don't tell him to tell them.
Got it.
I don't think he needs to tell them.
No,
like, what do they fucking need to know? He tells me, I tell my sponsor. My sponsor was like, I would take someone through, and he talks with a thick Long Island accent. So he's like, I'd fucking take somebody on Suboxone, but not someone who smokes weed. And I'm like, well, why? What's the difference? I was like, in the end, it's like, if somebody's seeking a spiritual experience, it's like, I feel great to try to help them achieve that.
Well, so you are someone that you lost Chris, you lost Todd, you've lost people. So anything to keep people alive at this point. That's how I see it.
Because if you're alive, there's hope.
There's hope.
And if there, hope is such the best thing.
Yeah. What's next?
I don't know. World domination. Fucking world domination.
Well, what do you consider world domination? Like, because here's the thing, Dave. Like, I sit here with you and I think about the impact you've made on the recovery community, and it's very interesting. A lot of people that in your shoes would want to be kind of making the refer. Like, you really just have this good heart, and you want to make it funny, and you want to make it accessible, and you keep an open mind, and I think that's probably fueled a lot of your, success, if you want to, call it that.
If I had my druthers, what would I want?
Yeah.
They're trying to sell a documentary about Dopey. I mean, I have my big plan. They sell the documentary about Dopey. As soon as they sell it, I write my book proposal. I get a deal for the book. As they make the documentary, I write out the book. The documentary comes out to great reviews. Then the documentary turns into a TV show, which is like Dopey, but a TV show with long-form interviews, kind of the Anthony Bourdain angle, but I want Zac to do part of it. Our show is going to have fucking like cooking in the halfway house, karaoke in the detox, go to Kensington,
in China.
Yeah,
let's go to China.
Barbecue in Kensington, whatever. That lasts for a couple seasons. At the same time, the book gets turned into a movie. There's a movie, actors playing me and Chris, and then I'm old enough to retire and stop working at Katz's, and that's my plan.
So are you? Is what's under? Because I get that. I hear you. Are you? Is it? What's underneath all that, right? Like, because I used to hear people say like, oh, "Why do you want to be an actor?" Or someone would say, "Why do I want to be an actor?" And they'd be like, "I don't want to be famous." And I just think that's bullshit. I think anybody, and it doesn't mean if it's good or bad necessarily, but any person who is seeking a public, there's a part of them that wants that.
I've always wanted to be famous.
Because why?
Because I'm not enough.
Do you remember where that really came from, or no? Because it doesn't have to come from anywhere. I mean, but do you remember?
I loved that stupid show, Rambling with Gambling. I loved Regis Philbin. Like, I would watch Regis Philbin, and he'd make the other people laugh, and he looked like he was chilling, and I was like, I want that. I liked weathermen. I was like, oh, I'd like to do the weather, and they look like they're relaxed. I think I'm such a nervous, anxious person that when I saw someone in a public place that seemed relaxed, I was like, that's what I want to do. I like the idea of fame because it would mean a lot of people liked me. I think I would like that. I think I would like to be recognized and appreciated because I have low self-esteem and because I think everybody likes to be recognized and appreciated. Mm-hmm. I think I love chilling. I love making people laugh. I love connecting with people. So all of those things are part of what I do. And I'm so grateful to do it. Every week I do 2 shows, and every week the second show is the free show. And when I'm putting that together, I get like original music, and I have weird voicemails that the audience sends in, and I play music at the end, and sometimes I'll take a stand and there'll be a long interview, and every time I'm done with it, I'm just like, I really love doing this. I mean, the song at the end is a song I wrote. The song at the beginning is usually a song an audience member wrote. The theme song is a song my old band played. Like, it's just, I love the kind of fucked up shit about it. The tapestry of creativity. I like it. I enjoy
You're good at it.
Thank you. I like it. It's fun.
Has social media helped a little bit?
I don't know.
It's whatever, right?
I pay this amazing Canadian woman to run the social media, and she's so much better at it than I am. And she does all those memes. She just steals them. We just steal the memes. Like, I don't think social media does anything but make you feel worse about yourself and want more.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm ready to cut the cord on the smartphone.
Well, I run Katz's social media, and I posted a brisket sandwich yesterday that was brisket with gravy, melted Swiss, and more gravy. And in 3 days, we hit 1.1 million, and I got a little bit high from it. A little bit.
You put the sandwich together too?
No. Juan Carlos.
You just took the picture?
No, I shoot the video.
Oh.
And maybe we'll talk about what's going on in the sandwich.
Well, what's that sandwich cost?
I would say that sandwich cost $28, but it's also definitely more food than one person.
That's not that bad.
No.
You're splitting that 3 ways.
I would split it 2 ways, but $14. I just spent $15 on a salad.
No, the prices are crazy. I mean, we're doing our food for our clinic, the guys who are in PHP up in Purchase, and I was looking at the catering menu. Sandwiches up in Westchester and White Plains are $18 a pop.
There you go. And only one person's eating that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're paying for it because they're in our program. So
I went to school in Purchase. SUNY Purchase. That's the first place I did heroin.
So what are we gonna do together? I want to help you lift you up. You're gonna Dopey. How do people find you?
You just go Google Dopey Podcast. Yeah. Go to Dopey podcast in any podcast places or any social media. I want to help you with your TV career. I want you back at DopeyCon this year. We're doing this crazy show on Saturday. I'm assuming the show will have aired.
This won't air.
Yeah. So it's a big show in LA with supposedly Bobby Lee, Margaret Cho, Jack Osborne, Rich Roll, Bob Forrest, Annie Letterman, and a cavalcade of dopes.
Maybe you'll take a moment this weekend and say like, oh, this is a pretty cool poster and these people are pretty cool and I should respect myself.
I respect myself and I am proud
Okay,
of what I've accomplished and I'm super excited.
Good.
And I like to take shots at myself, but dude, it was bad and my life is a billion times better than it ever was.
And with all that, with losing your co-host, your good friend, and people of the community, did you ever think about using?
No. I mean, I think about smoking weed all the time. I like the idea of smoking weed. I do.
I hated it.
I love, but I'm a stoner. I like aspire to be Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
You could smoke a joint and just like lay back on your bed. And
yeah.
I would have to go play basketball. I would have to go run. The thoughts were so overpowering that I had to fucking go. Like whoever was the guy that would smoke the weed and take the bong hit and be like, put on the music and be, that was not me.
That was me.
Oh,
and I'm still high.
I get it.
I'm still high from then.
I get it.
Like it's a miracle. But
I would love it too if that was me. It's just not.
Never.
Everybody has different brain chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, everyone like
how many do cocaine? Heroin? I loved heroin.
I love heroin.
Did you like coke?
I didn't like coke.
I didn't love coke
that
either.
made you paranoid?
No, it just made me uncomfortable. Didn't do anything good for me.
Get cocaine.
It makes some people feel euphoric and full of life and like they can talk to people. It made me feel uncomfortable. It made me want to drown myself in benzos, which is how I felt anyway. Benzos were the thing.
I never did heroin, but cocaine like made you so aware of the feeling that you were chasing that it just like amplified that experience. Yeah. But the problem with it is that it went away and then you needed more, and then you needed more, and then you needed more. Yeah. So it's terrible. Terrible.
Well, this has been great, dude. Let me know when I can come back on.
Next week.
Okay.
Come through.
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very bizarre interviewing you, so I hope we got your story out there, and I just respect the heck out of you.
I respect the heck out of you, too. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Jay, anything else? You good?
I'm good.
All
Thanks for bugging the shit out of us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.